Welcome, welcome. Welcome to another day, another opportunity, another privilege and honor we have to be in the land of the living. Welcome to Songs of Psalms, chapter 90. And the Songs of Psalms is a study on the book of Psalms. The book of Psalms contains songs. A lot of them was prayers, but these were songs that were written many thousands of years ago. And as a songwriter, I wanted to learn from the best because these songwriters were responsible for creating the music of their time. And since these are the oldest songs on record, I thought it would be fascinating to see what we can learn about songwriting from these songs. Are they relevant today? So far, from what we've seen, they are relevant. And they haven't disappointed. And so, if you're wondering why should you care about the Psalms, I'll give you three reasons. First of all, the writers of these psalms were people that faced similar situations that you and I face. Number two, you get to understand how they dealt with those challenges. And number three, you have the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and their successes. So that's why we're studying these things and trying to understand. There's a lot of life in these psalms that we can learn from and apply to our own lives. All right, so we're gonna dive into it today. And this psalm is important because it deals with finding purpose in life. Finding purpose in life. That's what this psalm deals with. In the last episode, we said that the psalm writer for Psalm 90 was Moses, and Moses was known as a friend of God. Moses was known as a friend of God. And of all the things that he said and he instructed his people to do, this was one of the writings that Moses preserved for the people. And we also talked a little bit about how whatever is important is preserved. And so we know that if it was preserved so that we can read it in 2022, it's for a reason. It's for a reason. And when you first look at this psalm, there's nothing special about it. There's nothing special about this particular psalm. Nothing that would make you instantly say, wow, I needed to read this. Nope. There's nothing special about this psalm. It doesn't have an obvious message. But the message comes when you decide to go deeper. And that's what we're doing here, my friends. That's what we're doing. We're going to go deeper. Why? Why? Because Moses wrote this psalm when that generation completely lost their purpose. They completely lost their purpose. They were wandering in the desert. And we're trying to learn, how do you find purpose when it seems lost? And so today, if we can get to it, we're going to talk a little bit about the number one secret to finding your purpose in life. We're going to touch on that today. And it's believed that Moses, again, wrote this psalm when the people of Israel, when they were sentenced to stay in the desert for 40 years. He had successfully led them out of Egypt. Right? They came out of captivity, yet they stayed captive in their own minds. And God used Moses to take Israel out of Egypt. But Egypt didn't make its way out of their lives. And so they spent 40 years in the desert. And God was upset with that generation because after all that he did for them, they were constantly complaining, constantly rebelling against him, and so they forfeited their entire destiny. They lost the opportunity to go into the promised land. And what can we take from this? What can we learn from this? That's why we're studying this from a songwriting perspective. What can we learn from this? Is it possible for someone to forfeit their destiny and purpose? A person can go about their life wandering aimlessly because of the poor choices they make. That's what happened to that generation. They made poor choices. And those poor choices led them to wander aimlessly. So if we know this, how do we prevent it? How do we prevent it? How do we as leaders and influencers prevent people from missing the mark? And how do we prevent it for ourselves is the better question. How do we prevent ourselves from wandering aimlessly in life, for missing out on our purpose? How do we as songwriters help people stay on track with their purpose? Can we even prevent it? Clearly, the answer is no. Because that entire generation of Israel, they proved it couldn't be prevented. No matter how hard Moses tried to get them to listen, they didn't listen. I mean, I know there's times I don't listen. I don't listen. And no matter how many miracles that generation of Israel witnessed, they still doubted. They still had unbelief. They chose to doubt despite the incredible amount of evidence that God provided for them, that He was with them. They chose to doubt instead of believing. So they didn't learn from their mistake. And that whole generation died in the desert. So when we ask, can you prevent someone from missing out on their purpose? The answer is yes, a person can miss out. But we're here to learn from their mistakes. That's why we're going into this. We're diving into it, which we were trying to understand how we ourselves can prevent it for ourselves, can prevent it for our loved ones. That's what we're trying to do. And you're probably asking, well, if we know that people are going to be hard-headed and they're not going to listen, why should we bother? Why should we bother to help someone find their purpose? The answer is because you never know. You never know. As an influencer, you can keep guiding that person that needs guidance. It requires patience, a lot of patience. That's what Moses did, right? And if we're looking at this from a songwriting perspective, maybe as a songwriter or as an influencer, as a creative, whatever it is, whatever gifting you have, maybe you can use your gift in such a way that it can help shape somebody's life to stay on path, right? Your gifting can help someone think differently about what they're supposed to do, and you can literally change their destiny. And I think that that's powerful. And that's what, good morning, Daddy. That's what Moses was doing here. He didn't stop trying. He didn't stop trying. Even though he knew that God made up his mind and they weren't going to go into the promised land, Moses kept trying. He tried his very best. He was fighting for them to the very end. And he wrote Psalm 90 as a prayer. He wanted them to say these words. He thought that perhaps if they say these words, if they pray these words over themselves every single day, that they would change. That it will help turn their life and their situation around. And that's a good lesson for us. For us not to give up so easily, not on ourselves and not on other people. Right? We use the gifts that we've been given to serve, to help ourselves, but to help those in need. And even when you see how hard-headed a person in your life is, the lesson is, let's not throw in the towel. Let's not give up on them. Keep using your influence, your time, your talent to fight until the end. Moses knew that without, thank you, Daddy, God bless you. Moses knew that without God's help, they were going to perish. They were going to perish because they were already forfeiting their destiny. And he knew that God wanted to bring them into this promised land, but because they were hard-headed and, they just wanted to go back into Egypt when God had so much more for them. God had so much more, and they wanted to go back to what they knew. That's how you lose out on your purpose, when you're not willing to go forward. They lost their purpose because they made poor decisions. So Moses wanted to give them another chance, and he wrote this psalm. He created this prayer for them with the hopes that they would pray it themselves and that they would change. And we're going to just take a quick moment, and we're going to look at what Moses wrote. Good morning, Marilyn. God bless you. We're going to look at what Moses said in Psalm 90. Psalm 90 verse 1, we're just going to take a look at it. He says, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. And that's a pretty clever line that Moses opened up this prayer. He's confessing, God, you're our dwelling place. And I believe that this is our number one secret on how to find your purpose. And you're like, well, how is that the secret? Like, Lord, he said, Lord, you're our dwelling place. You are our dwelling place. How is this the answer? See, things that are important, they're hidden. They're hidden. And that's why we're going in to dig out this gold that's there. My friends, the number one secret for walking in your purpose is this. Make God your dwelling place. Make God your dwelling place. Moses understood, Lord, you have been our dwelling place. In other words, wherever we are, you are always with us. Wherever we go, you go with us. You are our home. We live in you. We live under your protection. We are safe in you. You provide for us. That's what Moses was saying in that very first line. That's the secret to finding your purpose. The number one secret. There's other things that we're going to uncover here, but that's the number one. Think about it in the natural. Your home is your safe haven. It's where you are nourished. It's where you rest. It's where you find comfort. In your home, you are safe from storms, right? You are safe from dangers. Your home is your place of refuge. And Moses said this powerful truth, and no one caught it. Good morning, Debbie. No one caught what Moses said. He said, Lord, you are our dwelling. You are our dwelling. God is the one who gives us protection from the storms, right? All of these things are true. He's the one that protects us from the storm. He's the one that keeps us safe from harm. He provides a sure foundation that can't be shaken. And if he's our dwelling place, then we have all we need. What more do we need? What more do we need if he provides all that we need? The next psalm that we're going to read is so many people's favorite psalm. Psalm 91. Psalm 91 is so many people's favorite psalm, but let me give you a little preview. We're not talking about Psalm 91 today. We're still on Psalm 90, and we're just on verse 1. But Psalm 91 says it the same way. It says, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Isn't that good? Good morning, Debbie. God bless you too, sis. Isn't that good, y'all? He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High will abide under the shadow of the Almighty. To abide under God's shadow? Like how long and how deep is that shadow? And when we live under God's covering, his dwelling, we are under his shadow. And to cast a shadow, you have to be huge. And that he is. In other words, his shadow is intended for protection. His shadow prevents us from becoming prey, right? Prey. You know, where an enemy can come and attack you. His shadow prevents that because it hides. His shadow keeps the enemy away. And his protection guides our steps so that we don't fall into a pit. But when you leave the shadow, when you leave that dwelling place, then we're at risk. You're at risk because you can easily fall into a pit. And apart from God, you got to fend for yourself. Apart from God, you will wander aimlessly. And that's what Israel did when they separated themselves from God. They wanted to go back to Egypt. They wanted to worship false idols. And they wanted to keep doing the things they knew how to do. The things they saw the Egyptians doing. And they separated themselves from God with their actions. And so by separating themselves from him, they were forced to wander in the desert for the rest of their lives. And so the same goes for us and for our destiny. When we separate ourselves from God, we're going to wander aimlessly, looking for home. Looking for home. Did you catch that? You want to settle, but you can't settle because you've just separated. You don't know where you're going. And this is what Moses pointed out and was trying to make very, very clear. He knew it to be true that God was the dwelling place. And so he opened up this prayer with this fact. But the people didn't see it that way. They missed out on their destiny because they didn't make God their dwelling place. They didn't bring him into every situation. When you say, God, you're my dwelling place, you're saying, God, wherever I go, there you are. Wherever I am, there you are. Wherever I go, there you go. And they missed out on their opportunity. They didn't bring him into every situation. They left him behind because they thought they knew where they were going. They're like, we know the way. We know the way. We know where the promised land is. We know where we're going. We got this. We got this. We'll get to it ourselves. We don't need you. We don't need you. But we see how that worked out for them. And the same goes for us, my friends. Unless we remain under God's covering, we're going to miss out on our life's purpose. So again, I'm going to repeat it again. The number one secret for finding your purpose is make God your dwelling place. Because if he's your dwelling place, you have protection, you have provision, you have safety. Yeah. Amen. Marilyn says this is good. Thank you, Marilyn. Make God your dwelling place. That is how we find our purpose. And that's just one. That's just one. The very first, we didn't get past verse 1. That's number one. This is what Moses was trying to tell the people. But the next time we get together, we'll talk a little bit about what that means. How do you make God your dwelling? How do we, as creative people, as influencers, as songwriters, how do we use our gift to invite people to do that? To invite ourselves to do that. All right, so we're going to leave that right here. Come back tomorrow. We're going to continue on this journey, and we're just going to make sure that we don't miss the mark like the people of Israel did, because they surely missed the mark. They missed it. But we won't. We will not miss the mark, because we're going to learn from their mistakes. All right? So be sure to follow us here on Second Generation Music on Facebook. We're under Instagram as Second Gen Music. Follow us there. Go to our website, secondgenmusic.com. We have our schedule up there for our September classes that we're going to start. We're going to be training musicians and vocalists and songwriters. You can send us your email, and we're going to connect with you with our weekly blogs that we're posting. And yeah, you can stay in touch and see what we're doing. And we have a link in our bio. You can buy us coffee, and that coffee will help us continue to train and teach and develop skillful musicians, singers, and vocalists. All right? Okay, my friends, we're out of here. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine on you. The Lord lift up his countenance toward you and be gracious to you and give you shalom. Ciao, ciao.